We in the Midnight Mirage School of Higher Learning, of course. Salute the ladies and gentlemen, anybody that's in the building. So I was just sitting here meditating a little bit, and it felt a little motivation. We're gonna make this tape, and somebody will gain something from this. Hopefully, a few people do. Many of us may often ask ourselves if we ponder on these types of things. When you look out into the world, all the continents, people of various ethnicities and nationalities, when you see how the wealth is distributed in the world, you hear about the so-called 1% of the 1%, the top financiers, the top bankers, the people who own these corporations, some of the people that's still living in these dynastic monarchies that all these taxes are being collected for. When you think about these people, and some of them, if you look at interviews they've had, and when people have asked them certain questions or they've given commentary, what you'll find is that a lot of these people are quote unquote atheist, meaning that they don't believe in a quote unquote higher power. All right. And at the same time, most of us that may be so-called black people, we come from communities where a lot of the people are in poverty and they don't have access to resources. But somehow, some way, not only do they believe in a higher power, but they seem very, very sure of it. And their belief is very, very intense. So you almost see like a polar opposite. The people that have a lot of wealth and resources tend to not believe, whereas the people that have little to no resources tend to believe a lot. Why is that? Why is that? There could be a variety of questions, but what we're going to deal with in particular in this tape is the understanding of not being lukewarm and the understanding of not dancing on the checkerboard floor, not playing that game of duality and being on one side of the fence. So you all have ever heard that term, man, you riding both sides of the fence, meaning a person that seems to can't make their mind up. A person that's torn between two, almost like maybe this woman, let's say, and she got these two guys that she's trying to figure out which one she want to be in a quote unquote relationship with, or just basically that concept of a person being torn between two. Well, I can tell you right now, if you're really trying to speed up where you want to go in life, if you want to really get the answers that you've been looking for in life, if you want to really meet your true objective, if you want to really even reach your full potential and do your best to figure out the intent of why you were given a human spirit and, you've been living this life on earth. If you want to get to the bottom of all that, then what I would suggest to you is to fully ask yourself this question. Which path am I on? Am I on the path of Luciferianism? Or am I on a path of quote unquote righteousness? Now that term righteousness, quote unquote, is the label or term that I was trying to think of. What term do I want to use for that path that would be opposite of Luciferianism? Because we're going to explain what both of them are. But I chose righteousness. And basically, let's go into basic definitions before we go deep into the tape. So when we're talking about a path of righteousness, quote unquote, I came up with that term because in this tape, righteousness is going to be associated with, quote unquote, doing the right thing. And quote unquote, doing the right thing, although that could be subjective and relative depending on the environment, the climate, the situation, etc. But let's talk about that vibration that the human being feels within themselves, not from their mind, not even from their basic lower emotions, but something that may be a little deeper than that, that's in the core of the person, that feels like it's almost in the spiritual heart of the person. And whatever we really are on a more energy, soul and spirit level is coming from that place, the place of your real self. OK, your real self and what we're going to call the true self. All right. So when people do, quote unquote, the right thing in whatever situation of life they're in, no matter what their religion is, no matter what books they learn from, ultimately is coming from this deep, intimate place. And that deep, intimate place that we all have as individuals, because we all have that, what's called the human spirit. The human spirit is what I'm going to say is the source of, quote unquote, doing the right thing. It gives the impulses and the inspiration of, quote unquote, doing the right thing. But that human spirit, because we all are individual people, and we all not only have our own mind, but we also have our own spirit. And that individual spirit was given to us by what I like to call the higher power. I really don't even like that term God no more, because it's too general, you know. So, but whatever the higher power is, I know that it's the origin of the human spirit. And I know human beings have a spirit because I know my experience of having one. And when I come across other people, from what they tell me and from what I sense from other people, I'm not the only human being with a spirit. So we all have a true self, a true energy self, and it did come from somewhere. And that place that it came from is what we're going to call the higher power. And the higher power is what is responsible for what we're going to call creation. Now, some people may call creation the universe. That's okay. Some people may call it nature, whatever you want to call it. But what we'll call this organized system, all right, that we all live within, something is responsible for that. And there is also a reason, an objective, an intention for creation. So it's not something random, meaning that the higher power engaged in creation for a reason. We don't have to go through conjecture and try to speculate what that is. But nevertheless, there has to be an intention or a reason for it. Everything has a reason. It's all about, you know, figuring out what that reason is. So when we do things down here as individual human beings, because that's also another thing, the human being is made of the human spirit, and it's also made of the human mind and the human emotions. Now, the human brain, the human mind is associated with the human brain, and that's all part of the physicality or the material part of the human, or the physical part of the human. So the human being also is both spiritual and physical. Now, the human spirit is part of the spiritual part of the human, and the human mind or the human ego, the individual or your individual self, your mind, that's part of, you know, your material self. So when you're being inspired to do things that are based on what we'll call the objective, the creation objective, that overall intention, even though we all trying to figure out what is it, but we have a deep connection to it because we know that's the source. And also we're willing to put our individuality on the back burner to figure out what the overall objective goal is or intention is. All right. So that path of righteousness ultimately, and once again, this just is a term that I'm using for this tape, but when you quote unquote are doing the right thing, when you find yourself being in a position of service and sacrifice to, you know, other people and to other things within creation, when you find yourself always in positions where you're trying to advance yourself, but also you're looking to see how you can either help others or help something else in creation, then that means that you part of that overall collective. You part of that path of what we're going to call, quote unquote, righteousness in this tape. Because anything that you're going to do that's quote unquote right, it's going to sometimes benefit both you and someone else. Sometimes it'll benefit the other person and may not benefit you. So let's say it's an example where you got two guys in a car and one of them has a gun. They get pulled over. The police finds both of them. The one guy, that gun it really is, if he get caught with it, he got immediately 10 years felony with possession. And the other guy, he just driving, but it's not his gun. Now, the guy that knows his gun, he chooses to quote unquote do the right thing by saying it's his gun and also going to jail for 10 years because he knows that it was really his. So he wasn't really looking at how it'll only benefit him in a positive way. He was looking at more of the collective because the collective involved that other man he was with, the driver, his friend, you know, or the person he was associated with. So the decision he ended up making that led him to quote unquote doing the right thing. Notice how it was, we'll say, including the phenomenon of another living being in his reality. So he was being accountable and responsible for something other than himself. It wasn't just about him and what he wanted to do in the situation. Okay. So that would be an example of, you know, quote unquote, doing the right thing, but it not really benefiting you. You see? So when we saying, quote unquote, doing the right thing and being of sacrifice and being of service, you know, this is ultimately what we're talking about. But I also want you to pay a close attention to that aspect of it where sometimes doing the right thing don't always feel good and you don't get anything in return for it. So meaning that the path of righteousness looks like a path of pain sometimes. Okay. Now just kind of keep that in mind. So that's the path of righteousness. So the next question is that, well, what is the path of Luciferianism? Okay. The path of Luciferianism is what I like to call the religion of the self, the religion of the I. Okay. When you think about Luciferianism, I want you to think about your personal world, your personal individual mind and personal individual emotions, your personal individual desires and your personal individual wants. I want you to think about the pronouns I, my, mine's, me. I want to go to the store. I want my car right now. No, those are mine's. No, that belongs to me. Notice how all those pronouns that I'm using in those scenarios, they're all about my individual self. They're not really considering anything outside of myself. And depending on the intensity of the energy I put behind it, some people can be consumed with themselves, meaning that everything has to be about their personal, you see? So you have that microcosm of the human being, and then you have the macrocosm of the human being. The macrocosmic part of us is that spiritual part, that part that, you know, has to contribute to the collective, that part that has to really give back and sacrifice to that higher power that gave the human being a spirit because it has an objective. But then you have the microcosmic part of us, which is the material human being part, that individual, what my goals are and the things that I'm trying to achieve. So think about how a person, let's say on their quote unquote New Year's resolution, and how they may say, this year, man, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then this is going to happen for me. And then when I get that, it's going to be mine. Like all that individual world. All right. You know, now most of us are familiar with what in scripture is called the adversary in Genesis. Okay. And that adversary is one who taught the first indigenous people the concept of being consumed with one's I, or that being deeply involved with one's personal self. Okay. When we read, it does say what it told Eve, that you will be as gods and you will know it good and evil. So in other words, it taught them how to master getting what you want for yourself ultimately. So imagine a path where, or imagine a religion, or imagine these teachings that are all involved with somehow, some way, you quote unquote illuminating yourself, because the godhood that he was telling them about was the godhood of the human brain, the godhood of the reptilian desires and mastering them, the godhood of the ego, how to serve oneself, the godhood of individuality. Okay. And also, let me say this too, you know, I'm being non-biased in this. Okay. So it's not like I'm saying that one path is better than the other one. I'm just telling you what they are. So by the end of this, when you know, sitting down amongst yourself and you in a space of quiet time, you can really say, okay, well, this the path that I really rock with, you know, because I know these terms like Luciferianism, adversary, Satan, you know, righteousness, they may trigger certain feelings of I want to be associated with this and I don't want to be associated with that. But if you do that, then you defeating the purpose of this whole tape. So don't immediately go into this, oh, well, I know I'm a righteous person and I'm not with Luciferianism, because the truth is that I guarantee, like, out of 100% of y'all listening to this tape, probably 60 to 70% of y'all are Luciferians and don't even know it. Just keeping it real. I'm gonna just keep that shit 100. Probably 60 to 70% of y'all are Luciferians and don't even know it. And all right, let's keep going, okay? So when we saying a Luciferian, like, for example, like then when I said like how majority of you are listening to this right now probably are Luciferians, meaning that your everyday waking life, you probably are always thinking about what you can do for you. And I'm not saying that that may be a quote unquote wrong thing to do or a quote unquote right thing to do, but understand that that is the path of Luciferianism. Like, you're always trying to figure out how to advance yourself, your individual microcosmic world. You're not really concerned with maybe how your small bubble fits into a larger bubble, because if you were, then maybe you would see that some of the things that you're trying to do to get where you need to go in life from this Luciferian individual way of thinking and individual way of contemplating, and you realize that, man, well, maybe it's another path that I'm supposed to take that is part of a larger collective, and it may involve me doing different things to get where I want to go, then maybe you could get there a little easier, you know? So, but like I said, though, only you can be the judge of that. So I apologize. I don't want to sound judgmental or none of that, because at the end of the day, I have this same, question with myself. You know what I'm saying? And, I always contemplate, and I do a lot of self-analysis. And also, I'm not perfect. I'm not sitting here like I'm some damn prophet over somebody or none of that shit. The only person I'm a prophet over is my damn shadow. You know what I'm saying? And my own lower self. That's it. I ain't no prophet over nobody else. But I do know what path I'm on. You know what I'm saying? I do. So we just present this, to the people, for some of those that may have not thought about this before. So, before we move forward, it's that path of Luciferianism and the path of righteousness. Let me see. Now next what we're going to go with this is, see, it was only a few things I wrote down, a few bullet points, because I wanted y'all to get certain points. As I said, this path of righteousness, it's a path of serving and being in service to creation, and your individuality coming second, your ego coming second. And a lot of the things that you want to do, it coming second to what the overall objective of creation is and what part that you play in it. And a lot of you all, especially for you brothers, man, that really claim you studying the scripture, you claim you studying Islam. Well, did you not know that the path of the Sufi, or the path of the one that's really a believer, is a one of servitude? Did you not know that? When they talking about submitting in Islam, what they talking about is submitting to the purpose of the overall objective of creation. And who is the one responsible for that? It would be that higher power. So in a real general sense, a lot of us understand the esoteric Islam from submitting to so-called God, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. You have to submit to what the higher power has planned for creation. And part of that may be some of your desires and the things that you may quote unquote want. Maybe some of that wasn't planned for you. And will you be arrogant and tyrannical and say, no, I want to do this, and try to make a mountain out of a molehill? Or will you submit to what the truth is? Because what your reality in your life is going to show you is what's called the truth. So it's not like this is something that you probably going to be able to fight against and then win. It may be something more like you fighting against it, and you really going to just waste a lot of your time and still not get the result that you want. So can you submit to what you see is real? An example of that, like, this was the Islam in my life. When I was younger, I was into, we played recreational basketball. We played middle school, high school, AAU. You know what I'm saying? Some of the brothers went to semi-pros, all that. Some of them still playing overseas right now. I came up with a lot of different guys on different parts of Atlanta that was playing, college, playing, basketball growing up, right? So me being a part of that, yeah, when I was younger, you don't think I had plans and dreams of going to the NBA and playing professional basketball? Of course I did. But when I was in school, I was also good at doing my work and stuff like that. So in the end, a lot of shit, just kind of went wild in high school. But basically, I didn't end up going to college and playing professional ball like I wanted to. I ended up going to college, but I wasn't playing, sports like I wanted and how I had planned from my youth. So I had a choice. Do I want to try to fight against what my life kind of naturally is going towards? Because I'm still playing basketball every day. I'm still working out. It's just, you know, I'm not playing on the team like I once was. And I'm not still on that path of maybe playing professional ball. But it still looks like my life is going in a good direction. I'm in college. I learned about this accounting thing. It looked like I'm going down the path of becoming a businessman. So am I going to fight against what it seemed like my natural path of becoming this businessman is? Or am I going to keep trying to force playing professional basketball? Not playing basketball, period. I could always play ball, go to the gym, whatever. I could pull over on the side of the street and just play with some young niggas if I want. But am I going to try to force the professional shit? See, had I went down that path of saying, nah, man, I got to make the NBA and I got to keep trying this or whatever, even though certain stuff in my life is showing me that, hey, maybe you should get ready to go down this road, that would have been a path of Luciferianism. And that would have been a path of me not submitting to what the higher power is naturally showing me in my life. It wasn't like he was saying that, you know, you can't play ball no more or something like that, or even basketball is not going to be a part of your bigger life. But now I need you to go down this road of doing this accounting and being a businessman and being an entrepreneur. It's other doors that I need you to go through. It's other objectives and things that I need you to do, because you really connected to other things in creation and other plans that I have that you don't know about as an individual man, which is true. I'm a young man in my early 30s. I don't know the whole path of where my life is going. It's a lot of shit that I done been through and still going through now that I don't understand. But I trust my inner self, that spiritual self, not the ego, not the I, that individuality. No, the human spirit, that real me, the real Blackbeard, the real Mirage. I trust him, the spirit man. I trust him because I know that the higher power gave me that. That's my gift from the higher power. So no, I trust that. So, you know, I'm gonna go down that path. And then hell, who knows? You know what I'm saying? I may be able to goddamn own the Hawks or some shit. You know, me and some of my niggas, we may own the Hawks or own the Braves. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, some shit like that. So, you know, it's two paths. You know what I'm saying? You can try to force this shit, or you can go down the path of Luciferianism. So what's the difference between the two? Because the path of Luciferianism and the path of righteousness, when it comes to certain material possessions and certain lifestyles that we want to live while we're here in this material world, both paths will get you exactly there. So I'm not saying that the path of righteousness is the only path that'll get you to like the material comfort and really a lot of shit that you niggas want. Let's just keep it real, man. Most niggas want some money. You know what I'm saying? They want a lot of it. They want multiple properties. Of course, they want the multiple vehicles and stuff like that. Whatever interest they have, they want to be able to pay for that little stuff. They want to have, you know, it's like we all want the same stuff ultimately. So what I'm telling you right now, before I go deep into this tape, and before you start saying like, well, I ain't into Satanism and all this shit. Like, bro, both paths can get you there. And I'm not finna judge neither one you take at all. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. So, you know, but anyway, let's talk about the path of Luciferianism real quick. Okay, let's talk about the path of Luciferianism. The path of Luciferianism is a path where it's all about you. The path of righteousness is a path where it's all on you. Let me repeat that. The path of Luciferianism is a path where it's all about you. Remember, whatever it is your plans and desires want, it's all about that. The path of righteousness is a path where it's all on you. So also understand that in the path of Luciferianism, you're going to be assisted and helped by certain, we'll call spiritual forces and human beings that feel, think, and spiritually vibrate at the same level as you. Meaning that the same way how you deeply into your desires and wants, the same way how everything is about your I, your my, your me, your minds, you will find yourself in groups, associations, collectives, cliques, surrounded by other people who think the same way as you. And you all will have that in common, And you all will create common goals and common objectives around the idea that we're all here to serve ourselves ultimately. And we're going to help each other only because we really try to do something for ourselves in the end. And we're going to all agree upon that together. Okay. Now that's ultimately not only, because remember I said you're going to be helped by two different forces. You're going to be helped by certain human beings that feel that way and think that way and spiritually vibrate that way. And you're also going to be helped by certain spiritual beings that think, feel, and vibrate that same way. But what I want you to understand though is that when I say spiritual beings, of course I'm talking about something that we cannot see. And I'm really talking about something more in an energetic form, an emotional form, and a thought form. Let me repeat that. When we saying adversarial and the shaitan, like when we say the shaitan, we talking about something that's in emotional form, energetic form, and thought/image form. And this is how it's going to interact with you. Okay. And this is how it's going to manifest and communicate with you. Okay. So this is not some phenomenon you're going to see. But what you will see is the human beings that are in association with you. And these human beings are also a party to certain, we'll say, spiritual forces that feel the exact same way. Okay. So these different shaitan and these different human beings, these will be your support system. Okay. When you take the path of Luciferianism. And also remember too, that these people, primarily the people that, you know, that's running stuff right now, they primarily are Luciferianisms, practice Luciferianism. I'm not saying that you don't have righteous people throughout the continents that are wealthy people and, you know, and stuff like that. But it's just they the minority. Okay. They the minority. Even wherever city you live in, whether you live in New York, whether you live in Illinois, whether you live in, you know what I'm saying, Las Vegas, Nevada, you know, it don't matter where you live at, Florida. It don't matter where you live at, whatever city you live in and whatever is, you know, the more prominent side of town, you know, where the homes are more expensive and stuff like that. Even your average citizen in that area is a Luciferian. OK. And the reason why these people are Luciferians is because not only have, you know, they have actually seen success from it. You know, and that's why you meet a lot of people who have money and wealth and resources. And although they may not be bad people, but they're atheists, you know, they're atheists and they tend to not believe in any kind of like higher power and stuff like that, because the path of, you know, serving their self, because they're fully immersed into it. They're not dancing on the checkerboard floor. They've chosen what side they on, even if they don't understand the other path. But it's just, this is what they fully have immersed themselves in, what they've chose. Then they're going to get the reward from that. Okay. So even if you some lukewarm person, somebody that get out here and jump fully into the Luciferianism and get fully into the Satanism, they're going to get more of a reward from that shit than you are trying to be so-called righteous. You know what I'm saying? Just keeping it real. So before we go into, you know, the righteousness, understand that that path of Luciferianism, you're going to get a lot of help, man. It's a lot of association. It's a lot of support. But I'm going to tell you the only downside to it, though. It's a lot of sorrow added. Let me repeat that real quick. Matter of fact, let me get a little bit of my Capri Sun real quick. Let you niggas marinate on that shit. The path of Luciferianism, the only difference is it's a lot of sorrow added. And I'm going to tell you why. These different adversarial spiritual beings and these other human beings that you're going to be associated with, taking that path of Luciferianism, although they're going to, you know, assist you a lot and they're going to help you a lot, it's going to be a lot of what, like those, you know, stipulations and like regulations and rules that come with when people say, quote unquote, selling your soul. Now, that's a very general term that we're using in this tape, because when we're saying you sell your soul, I don't want to confuse this with the idea of somebody practicing, you know, Freemasonic rituals and worshiping Baal and like I ain't even talking about none of that shit. I'm talking about something that's way more basic than that. Like you don't got to be a Freemason to be in none of this I'm talking about. You don't got to be a Shriner. You don't got to be involved in none of that shit. You could be sitting right in your room and declare what path you want, and then whatever energy is associated with that is what you're going to start experiencing, and whatever road that start leading you down, that's where your life is going to go. So this ain't got nothing to do with like you joining some Greek fraternity or boule. This ain't got nothing to do with none of that shit, okay? Everybody's involved in including this shit. But as I said, though, when you take that path of Luciferianism and then these other, you know, human beings and forces, they come into your life, they going to support you, but they going to want something in return for it. And they going to be, you know, rather aggressive about it, too. You know, they're going to be rather bestial about it, too. They're going to be very reptilian about it. So you got to understand that the path of Luciferianism, it's a very, very animalistic path. Like the different type of people and beings you meet on that path, they all are very, very animalistic and bestial in nature, because that's the part of themselves that they're feeding the most. That's the part of themselves that's getting the most attention. You know, it's pretty much their desires, their bowels, you know what I'm saying? Their bellies. So they're consuming a lot. They're consuming a lot mentally and emotionally. They're consuming a lot physically. And they're consuming a lot spiritually. So these people are in a constant predatory state of bestial, bloodthirsty type of hunger. And that's why they constantly need new people to associate with, because it's like a thirst that can't be fed. Like in that new movie, there's a new movie called Antlers. You know what I'm saying? For all my niggas out there that's into the horror shit, go check out that movie Antlers. And I don't want to give it away, but basically in the movie, you know, it's like this Aboriginal American demonic spirit. And what it does is it embeds itself into the heart of a person. And then from there, the demon starts to slowly spawn out. But what it does is it makes the human person that is hosting more and more animalistic and bestial. You know, their form starts changing. They start needing more wild food to eat, like wild animals, roadkill and stuff like that. Then they get to attacking people and stuff like that. And then eventually when the demon get ready to break out of them, once it grows to its full power, it pretty much bursts out of them. And when you see it, it's in the form of like this animalistic humanoid deer. It literally looked like a demonic deer that ate human flesh. So these Luciferian spirits and Luciferian humans, remember that they practice lycanthropy, and they practice vampirism as well. Remember, they're involved in these bacchanalian cults. So now we can kind of talk a little bit about the, you know, the Freemasonic aspect, the secret society aspect, you know, the fraternal aspect. Yeah, that's where those people, those are the members and those are the people that get actually involved in those groups. But that choosing that path of Luciferianism, though, is what led them to that, though. See, the path of Luciferianism starts way before you become the Freemason. By the time you become a Freemason, that you're going toward the end of it now. You know what I'm saying? It started before that, but back to the demonic, animalistic, reptilian, bestial, you know, form that it's gonna put you in. Cause that's another thing too. Like that's why when you see a lot of these people and they start getting a lot of money and shit start going decent for them, they start consuming more and more and more and more, and then they become desensitized to stuff. They got to start eating certain foods that they never really ate. You know, it's like on that movie Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Remember when they was doing the you know what I'm saying, the Kali rituals and the blood sacrifice rituals to Moloch and shit like that. And remember that during the party, the royalty, the Hindustan royalty and the British royalty, remember they were eating all kind of weird shit, monkey brains, eating snake eggs and shit like that. And see, the reason why they did that, because they as wealthy people, they've been consuming so much of the earth, going to and fro so much of the earth, devouring so many resources, so many plush, lavish, you know, good things. You know what I'm saying? Devouring so much that their appetite, it really can't be quenched. And that's how that demonic animal was on antlers. Like it couldn't, the more it ate, the madder it got, and the more it couldn't quench its thirst for blood. And that's how this thing is once you become a true Luciferian. And I got to add that in there too now. See, in order for you to rise in the ranks of the Luciferianism, you have to allow the animalistic form to take over you. Kind of like on for all my niggas that know, and shout out to Lil Bro for this shit, on that Mortal Kombat, and niggas going to animality mode. Like, if you really trying to become a real wealthy Luciferian, and like you really want to get to like top level, like hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and stuff like that, then you have to be willing to go to this level. I ain't gonna lie to you. You got to be able to go to the animality level. And see, me personally, like I can't go to that level. You know what I'm saying? I can't go to that level. That's why once, you know, a long time ago, when I started to, when my spirit, when it made me privy of these things, and I got that opportunity now to choose what path I want, I saw that I can't do that because that it's that animalistic consumption that it gets you on. See, that's the part that, you know what I'm saying, most niggas don't be really knowing, that come with the contract. But why would these human beings and these adversarial forces, why would they communicate that with you? Why would they let you know that that's the small print in the contract, that you're going to become a part of the cult? You're going to become a part of the group. And then also, we going to feed on you. So that's how it go. That's why when you see them old medieval pictures of, you know, the medieval Moorish Europa pictures, and they were showing the Dante's Inferno and showing all these demons in hell, and the demons got these pitchforks and putting people in cauldrons and stuff because they're eating them. They're eating them, and they'll show you the demons gnawing on their flesh. They'll show you the big pictures of Lucifer, the big pictures of Beelzebub, and it'll be this big demon head in the middle of hell, and he literally got people in his mouth, in his nose, in his ears. Like, any hole he has that he can consume your flesh, you're going in it, buddy. You are. And his Luciferian minions, both human and non-physical, they have to feed on you too. So Luciferianism is a path of constant feeding, constant drinking. And that's also why I said in the days of Noah in the Old Testament, that while Noah was building the ark, that the people were doing what? Eating, drinking, and being merry, practicing Luciferianism. So when we saying Luciferianism, like, that religion was taught to Adam and Eve, and they took that out of the garden. And when we saying Adam and Eve, we talking about the first Aboriginal, the first indigenous people of the earth, the first men and women of the earth, the first, you know, people of civilization of the earth. They passed that ideology and those teachings down in humanity. And you had other pockets of humanity that said, no, we don't need to do that. But nevertheless, that's what Luciferianism is. The path of righteousness. All right. You know, my nigga BG, man, he got 2 albums, Volume 1 and Volume 2, and they called It's All on You. The path of righteousness is all on you. Remember, like I said, the path of Luciferian is all about you consuming. The path of righteousness is all on you, meaning that the higher power gave you your human spirit, just like it tell you in Genesis, and then he pulled back, and that's it. Everything else is on you. You have to go down the path and trust the human spirit and make the right choices and make the right decisions. Look for the subtle signs in life. Look for the instructions of your human spirit, not your ego, but your human spirit. Look at the fellowship you have with other good men and women that you're going to meet as you grow older in life. Look at the talents, the gifts, the skills you have, those seeds that are inside of your human spirit that really need to be worked on, and you need to grow them. So now you can get the fruit and the abundance and the success from that, because that's going to lead to your life of wealth. But the only thing about this path of righteousness is that it's all on you. So the Most High, or the higher power, he ain't about to be coming down doing nothing for you. And I'm going to give you 2 examples of this. The first example is going to be, imagine somebody that owns a football team. Let's say Jerry Jones on the Dallas Cowboys, right? Jerry Jones pays to get the studio, you know, the stadium, excuse me. where the Cowboys play. He pays for the stadium. So he sets the stadium up. He pays to get the whole staff on the team, the coaching staff. He pays to have the TV commercials and the jerseys. He's paying for all the jerseys. He pays the players' contracts. But once the players get on the field on Sunday, all Jerry Jones can do is sit back and watch. He can't interfere with the performance of the players. He cannot help them, and he cannot hinder them either. Whatever happens on the field, it's all on the players. It's on the decisions of the players. It's on the choices of the players. But nevertheless, the outcome ultimately is in the hands of the players. And, you know, the way I deal with life myself, that is my relationship with the higher power. I am that Dallas Cowboy player, and the higher power would be the owner of the team. You know, in this example, Jerry Jones. The higher power has created the earth environment. The higher power has put nature here for me. The higher power has put the celestial objects in the heavens, meaning the sun and the moon, because I need these as part of my weather system. The higher power has put the 4 seasons here for me. The higher power has put oxygen here for me. The higher power has put me in a good family and around good friends. The higher power has given me certain talents and skills and gifts in a seed form from my baby years that I now need to grow into something big and manifest into something powerful. But the higher power needs me to get on the field, aka live life, perform well, make the right choices, make the right decisions. So then I'll end up successful and I'll end up winning in the game of life. So what you got to understand on the path of righteousness is that it's all on you, meaning that, you know, and once again, this is just me. This is just my personal perspective. But the higher power does not have an ego, meaning the higher power don't need some people sitting around praying to him and stroking his ego to be like, oh, you all this and all you all that. The higher power don't need all that. He's already in his glorious state. You know what I'm saying? He already is feeling that abundance. Really what it seems like is that he wants creation to feel like that. He wants us to experience what he's always in. And it's almost like through his mercy, he's always trying to keep the environment, you know, pleasant for us so we can do our thing ultimately. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he wants you to win for you, not for him. See, that's the trick in this. Like in Islam, when you submit, you ain't doing that for the higher power. You're doing that for you. And the part that you play in all this. You think the higher power really need us to submit to him? Like, he over all this. You know what I'm saying? So he don't need us like that, you know? This shit more is about, what are we going to take this test and gain from all this? You know what I'm saying? Because it's probably something big on the other side of it. And also to say that when you're on the path of righteousness, you can't be doing it because you expect a reward. That's another thing. If everything in life to you has to be about a reward for being righteous or doing the right thing, or you getting some in return for quote unquote reading the scripture or reading the Quran, and you thinking because you did salat 5 times a day or whatever it is that you think you're doing, like if you only doing that because ultimately you want so-called God to answer your prayers and just do what you tell him to do when you ask him, you're a Luciferian as far as I'm concerned. Now, somebody else may call that something different. But to me, you practice Luciferianism. You do. When you live in a life of servitude, you expect nothing in return. And when you get something in return for it, it's all good and you accept that. There's nothing wrong with that. Because that's part of it. You know what I'm saying? When you give, you're going to receive. But that's not why you got in it. You know what I'm saying? That's not why you got in it. You know, just like myself. Hell, honestly, you know, like with the writing books and stuff like that, I really ain't get into it to be making no money and all that. You know, honestly, I'm such a great, orator, and my communication skills are so, so up to par. I mean, if you ask people who personally know me, it's like I'm making tapes and all that. If you just sitting around me in real life and talking to me for 30 minutes, this is a tape right there. Like every time I'm talking, it's a tape. So it ain't like, it's just like, hell, let me just record this shit, for some other people to get it. But as far as like the intent of why I got into it, no, it's like shit, a nigga like history. And I know one day it probably ain't gonna be my generation, but I think some of these ones after me, they're gonna actually take the information, and I think they're gonna politically and economically do something with it. They ain't gonna be sitting here making no YouTube tapes and writing books like I am, doing this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that ain't what they gonna do with it. These Americans that's gonna come after us, you know what I'm saying? That's, these future generations, no, they gonna read the book, or they gonna get this information, and then I think them people are gonna be doing something to make a change. Like, they ain't gonna be like us, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody got their own objective and intent, because a higher power has a purpose for all this and why it's going the way it's going. So that's how I can take my ego out of it and know that, oh, okay, so it really ain't about me right now, nor is it really not about these niggas that I think supposed to buy the book right now. It ain't even about them. It's about having this stuff available, because in the future, probably when I'm an old man, when I'm an elder, the young people of that day, they actually gonna do something about it. They ain't gonna be like these niggas right here that I'm around right now. Oh, I got it now. See, the path of Luciferianism would have me thinking, oh man, these niggas ain't buying the book. Oh man, damn, these niggas ain't watching the videos. Oh man, YouTube goddamn blocking my shit or whatever. And just getting so frustrated because of what I think y'all ain't fucking doing. Y'all ain't got that type of power. So these are the two paths, and why you have to. That's another thing. See, when you take the path of Luciferianism or righteousness, you're going to get a clear understanding of why you're doing everything that you're doing in your life. Hold on, let me get some Capri Sun real quick. See, when you take the path of Luciferianism or righteousness, and you choose which one you really own, and you stop goddamn slipping, sliding through both sides of the checkerboard, you're going to figure out why you do everything you do. Because if you choose that path of righteousness, then trust me, the things that you claim you love the most, the people that you claim you love the most, the skills and talents and plans that you got for yourself and society and creation as a whole that you claim you love the most, boy, you gonna sacrifice for it. Girl, you gonna suffer for it. You finna go through so much pain, so much stress, so much anguish, so much hurt, so much self-doubt, so much impatience, so much lack of resource, so much going down the dark road by yourself with no help. You finna go through that so much that you're gonna figure out if you really about that shit or not. Because if you're not, you're gonna turn your ass around and you're gonna get on that other path of Luciferianism. And that's okay. But once you do that, you got to stay over there. So it ain't like the hopscotch shit. You know what I'm saying? Choose from the beginning. And once you get off the path, whatever you want, you got to stay there. An example of, the path of righteousness, and then we're going to wrap it up, is that movie, The Book of Eli, with Denzel Washington. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that's another one. When I be feeling down and, sometimes, my path of life would get a little tough for me. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'll go watch that movie. And that's how the path of righteousness look. It's a path of suffering. It's a path of having to have faith in things that you don't have no understanding about. It's a path of being blind to certain things, but still having to strive forward. It's a path of trial and tribulation. And it's also a path of having to ignore certain things that your ego want to cater to. So, for example, in the movie The Book of Eli, it's a scene where when he's traveling west, he's hiding on one of these old highway systems that's destroyed. And he looks over the corner and he can see some men, basically a camp of, wild scavengers. And they came across this old man and an old woman. And long story short, the scavengers came, they killed the man, and they were about to take the woman and sexually assault her. And instead of Denzel's character going and helping the woman in that situation, he kept telling himself, stay on the path, stay on the path, stay on the path, stay on the path, while the woman was being assaulted and killed. And then, of course, it continued on to the next scene. See, the human ego would have told you to go and help that woman. But what if I told you the human spirit would have told you to not help and stay on the path? Can you accept that? Do you have the discernment and the understanding to know that that's the right decision for you to make at that moment? And that's going to contribute to the overall creation plan in itself? Are you willing to watch other people be destroyed if it involves you having to stay on the path? So remember how I said earlier when I used that example of, the two guys and one had the gun and then his friend, was the driver. It wasn't his, and how doing the right thing hurt because he had to take the gun charge and go to jail for 10 years. Remember, like I said, the path of righteousness, it hurts way more than the path of Luciferianism on the front end. But on the back end, the path of righteousness feels better than the path of Luciferianism. So those are the reverses to it. On the front end, the path of righteousness is going to hurt. Like I said, a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, turmoil, travesty, etc. on the front end, meaning that as soon as you make that decision and you authentic about it in your life, you done had a first wave, a little test to come to see if you're going to get off that path, but you stayed on it. And now you fully immersed into it and you pressing through all of it now. Once you get through those first few waves of pain, then now you will start to see the sun come out and you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. But the path of Luciferianism is much different. In the beginning phase, you're going to see this false illumination. You're going to see these bright lights, but they false, almost like a light bulb. See, the path of Luciferianism, always remember that the knowledge and the shaitan, the knowledge that the shaitan has, it's like a light bulb. It's an artificial light. It'll allow you to see, but you only got a certain amount of time to see in it, and the seeing in it isn't as authentic because the light bulb can break, it could fracture, and then you'll be back to a state of darkness. Whereas the path of righteousness, it's a real eternal sun. It's an everlasting sun, and it's true light. So you'll never be in darkness on that path, even if it appears you're in darkness. Because that's another thing. Both paths come with deception. Yeah, the path of righteousness come with deception. Plenty of tests and situations that'll make you feel like you made the wrong decision or you in the wrong thing, but you really in the right thing. It's just attacking your ego and it's making your sensual self feel like you in the wrong thing. Then you got the path of Luciferianism where things feel like they're the right thing. Your ego feel happy. Everything is so-called good. But spiritually and then more in a long term, that's a demonic, destructive path. So, you know what I'm saying? Understand, man, like my nigga BG say, or like in the book of Eli, it's all on you. Once you're on that path of righteousness, there is no reason to pray to the higher power, because everything that you would pray for, everything you feel like you need, what you don't know is that you already have those things. You have them both internally and externally. It's only that these things show up at certain points of the journey, and it won't show up ahead of time. You know what I'm saying? It'll be times you'll be real frustrated in your life financially. You may feel like, man, I got my perfect youth. My intellect is at a supreme level. I got my degrees. I'm ready to start doing business. I'm ready to get off the bench. Coach put me in. I'm ready, coach. But I ain't in the game yet. I ain't making the type of money I want yet. I ain't got the big contract yet. I ain't got the big situation yet. I'm in all these legal battles still with my business. But that's just a deception. You're really in the right place. And at a certain part on the journey, the things you've been looking for, they'll appear. they'll appear. So we're going to get ready to end it there, you know. Path of Luciferianism, it's all about you. And the path of righteousness, it's all on you. We out.